The alien queen was shocked when her married human revealed his true power part. 1. The silent consorts. The throne room of the Zevronian Empire stretched upward like a cathedral carved from living crystal. Pillars of luminescent blue stone rose hundreds of feet, supporting a ceiling that displayed the swirling nebulas of distant galaxies. Queen Lasara sat upon her throne, a structure that seemed to grow organically from the floor itself, its surface constantly shifting with patterns of light that reflected her mood. Marcus Chen stood 3 steps below the throne, his position carefully prescribed by court protocol. He wore the formal robes of a royal consort, deep purple fabric embroidered with silver thread that marked him as belonging to the queen. To anyone watching, he appeared calm and composed, but his eyes constantly moved, cataloging exits, counting guards, assessing threats that no one else in the room even considered. High Chancellor Vexener approached the throne with a distinctive clicking gait of his species. The Zevronian stood nearly 9 feet tall, his crystalline skin refracting light in patterns that communicated his emotional state to those who could read them. Right now, those patterns showed barely concealed contempt as his multifaceted eyes briefly glanced at Marcus. "Your Majesty," Vexener began, his voice resonating like struck glass. "The trade delegation from the Korthon Syndicate has arrived. They wish to discuss the mining rights in the outer territories." Lysara nodded gracefully. Her own crystalline skin was a paler shade than Vexenor's, almost translucent, and the crown of living metal that grew from her temples pulsed with soft golden light. "Invite them to the diplomatic hall. I will receive them within the hour, as you command, my queen." Vexener bowed, then added with calculated casualness, "Shall I have your companion wait in the garden quarters?" I am certain these discussions would bore someone of his limited understanding. Marcus felt the familiar sting of the insult, but kept his expression neutral. He had endured worse over the past 18 months. The Zevronian court had made their opinion of him abundantly clear from the moment he had arrived on their world. Lasara's skin patterns shifted to sharp, angular shapes that anyone familiar with Zevronian culture would recognize as anger. "High Chancellor, my consort will remain at my side during all official proceedings. His understanding, limited or otherwise, is not your concern." Vexenor's own patterns flickered with surprise before smoothing into apologetic swirls. "Of course, Your Majesty," meant no offense. After the Chancellor departed, Lysara turned to Marcus with an expression of frustration. "I apologize for Vexener. He forgets himself." "No apology necessary," Marcus replied softly. His voice carried the faint accent of someone who had learned Zevronian as a second language, though in truth he spoke it perfectly. I understand his perspective. To him, humans are barely more advanced than primitives. It was true by the standards of the galaxy. Humanity had achieved faster than light travel only 20 years ago. The Zevronian Empire had been traveling between stars for over 3,000 years. In the grand timeline of galactic civilization, humans were infants taking their first steps into a vast and dangerous universe. The Earth's diplomatic corps had worked desperately to establish alliances with any civilization willing to acknowledge them. The Zevronians, known for their sense of honor and fairness, had agreed to a cultural exchange program. That program had eventually led to the unprecedented arrangement of a formal union between their queen and a human representative. Marcus had volunteered for the position. The official record stated he was a cultural attach with a background in xenanthropology. Those records were carefully constructed lies. The truth was far more complicated. "Walk with me," Lysara said, rising from her throne. The movement was fluid and graceful, her long robes trailing behind her like liquid starlight. "I need to clear my mind before meeting with the Korthons." They walked through the palace gardens, a sprawling complex of crystalline structures and bioluminescent plants that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Zevronian gardeners had spent centuries cultivating species that could thrive in the unique radiation signature of their sun. The result was a landscape of impossible beauty, where plants seemed to sing with light and the air itself hummed with barely audible harmonics. "Do you miss Earth?" Lysara asked suddenly. Marcus considered the question. He had trained himself to think carefully before speaking, to always maintain his cover story. "I miss some things. The rain, the smell of pine forests, coffee." He smiled slightly. but I have found much to appreciate here." "Such diplomatic words," Lysara said, and there was a hint of sadness in her voice. "Sometimes I wonder what you really think, Marcus. You're always so careful, so measured in everything you say." "Would you prefer me to be reckless? I would prefer you to be honest." The words hung in the air between them. Marcus felt the weight of 18 months of deception pressing against his chest. He had grown to care for Lysara deeply, more than his training had prepared him for. She was brilliant, compassionate, and carried the burden of ruling billions with a grace that humbled him. The fact that their entire relationship was built on necessary lies was a constant source of pain he could never acknowledge. "I am honest about what matters," he said finally. "My feelings for you are real, Lysara. At least I can promise you." She looked at him with her crystalline eyes, which could see into spectrums of light invisible to human vision. "I believe you," she said softly, "even when the court whispers that you are nothing but a political arrangement. Even when they mock you in chambers they think I cannot hear. I believe that what we have is real." Marcus reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cool to the touch, harder than human flesh, but still capable of conveying warmth. "They can mock all they want. Their opinions do not change what is between us." Sudden alarm shattered the peaceful moment. Klaxons blared throughout the palace, and the sky above them suddenly lit up with streaks of red energy fire. Ships descended through the atmosphere, their hulls bearing the jagged insignia of the Kravix raiders. "Raiders?" Lysara's voice was shocked. "How did they penetrate our planetary shields?" Marcus's entire demeanor changed in an instant. His casual stance shifted into something harder, more alert. His eyes tracked the incoming ships with the precision of a tactical computer. "We need to get you to the secure vault. Now." Royal guards materialized from hidden positions throughout the garden, their energy weapons activated and shields deployed. Captain Zorkan, commander of the Queen's personal guard, sprinted toward them. His species, the Corvex, were known throughout the galaxy as fearsome warriors, their forearms each capable of wielding weapons with deadly precision. "Your Majesty, we must evacuate you immediately," Zorkan barked. "The raiders have breached the outer palace defenses. They are landing troops in the eastern wing." "How many?" Lysara demanded, her shock giving way to the steel of a ruler who had been trained since birth to face crisis. "At least 200, possibly more. They are heavily armed." Explosions rocked the palace. Through the transparent sections of the garden dome, Marcus could see more ships descending. His enhanced vision, a gift of neural augmentation that no one in the Zevranian court knew he possessed, counted exactly 247 enemy combatants deploying from the landing craft. "Captain, take the Queen to Vault 7, Marcus said. His voice had changed, carrying an authority that made even Zorkan pause. "Not the primary vault. They will have intelligence on that. Take the service corridors through the lower levels." Zorkan looked at him with surprise. "How do you know about there is no time?" Marcus interrupted. "Go now." Lysara grabbed Marcus's arm. "You are coming with us." "I will follow right behind you," Marcus said, gently removing her hand. "I promise." "Marcus, Lysara, please. Trust me."
Oh.
Something in his eyes must have convinced her. She nodded reluctantly and allowed Zorkan to lead her away, surrounded by guards. Marcus watched them disappear into the palace, then turned to face the garden entrance where he could hear the sounds of combat growing closer. He reached behind his ear and pressed a spot that appeared to be nothing more than skin. Soft click confirmed activation of the neural interface hidden beneath his flesh. "Sentinel 7 to command. Palace is under attack. Requesting immediate tactical assessment." A voice responded instantly in his mind, transmitted through the interface. "Command confirms. We've been tracking the Kravix fleet. They had inside help to bypass the shields. Unknown traitor within the Zevronian military structure. Numbers and capabilities. 247 hostiles. Standard Kravix armament. Expect high aggression, low tactical sophistication. However, their mission appears focused. They are heading directly for the throne room and royal quarters," acknowledged, going weapons hot. Marcus moved quickly too. A decorative fountain, one of thousands throughout the palace gardens. To anyone else, It appeared to be nothing more than an artistic representation of ancient Zevronian mythology. Marcus pressed 3 specific points on the statue in sequence. A hidden compartment opened, revealing items that should not have existed in the Zevronian palace. A combat suit, black and seamless. Folded impossibly small through the use of smart materials that humanity had developed in secret. Weapons designed to look like nothing more than metallic rods until activated. And a small device no larger than a coin that, when pressed against his chest, would activate the full combat protocol burned into his neural pathways. He had hoped he would never need to use any of this. For 18 months he had played his role perfectly. The harmless human, the decorative consort. The diplomatic curiosity that posed no threat to anyone. That role ended now. Marcus stripped off his formal robes and pulled on the combat suit. It sealed around him automatically, its surface immediately mimicking the colors and textures of his surroundings. Active camouflage, another technology the galaxy assumed humans were centuries away from developing. He activated the weapons, and they extended into configurations that would be recognized by military experts as brutally efficient instruments of war. The first group of Kravix raiders burst into the garden. They were a reptilian species, heavily muscled and covered in scales that could deflect most light weapons' fire. They carried plasma rifles and war armor adorned with the trophies of previous raids. They never saw Marcus. He moved like smoke, the combat suit's camouflage rendering him nearly invisible. His first strike took down the lead raider with a precise blow to the neural cluster at the base of the skull. The second and third fell before they could even raise their weapons. The remaining raiders finally spotted him as the camouflage flickered during combat. One of them managed to squeeze off a shot that Marcus dodged with movements too fast to follow. He closed the distance, disarmed the raider, and used the alien's own weapon to disable the others. Within 30 seconds, 7 Kravix raiders lay unconscious in the garden. Marcus dragged them quickly into shadow, then continued toward the throne room. His neural interface fed him constant updates on enemy positions throughout the palace. More raiders were pouring in. Their movement patterns suggested they were searching for something specific, or someone. Marcus moved through the palace like a ghost. 18 months of living here had given him knowledge of every corridor, every hidden passage, every weakness in the palace defenses that the Zevronians did not know existed. He intercepted 3 more raider groups, each time dispatching them with brutal efficiency before they could threaten the royal quarters or civilian areas. But even as he fought, part of his mind was calculating the larger picture. The Kravix were pirates and opportunists. They did not have the resources or intelligence for an attack this coordinated. Someone had given them information. Someone had helped them bypass the planetary shields. Someone wanted the Zevronian throne room badly enough to risk an operation that would normally be suicide. Marcus reached the central palace chamber just as the main body of raiders breached the throne room. He could hear weapons, fire, and the distinctive sound of Zevronian crystal weapons engaging. The royal guards were fighting hard, but they were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. He pressed himself against the wall outside the throne room and accessed his neural interface again. Command: I need full authorization. About to compromise cover. There was a pause. Then a different voice, older and carrying the weight of authority. Sentinel 7, this is Director Hammond. Authorization denied. Your cover is too valuable. Disengage and protect yourself. Negative command. The Queen is in danger. Multiple civilian casualties imminent. The mission parameters are clear. 1 life, even a royal one, does not justify revealing Earth's capabilities to the galaxy. Marcus closed his eyes. He had trained for 12 years to be a sentinel. He had sworn oaths to put Earth's safety above all other considerations. Had accepted that his life and the lives of others were acceptable losses if they protected humanity's long-term survival. But he had also spent 18 months with Lysera. He had seen her compassion, her dedication to her people, her quiet moments of doubt when the weight of the crown seemed too heavy. He had fallen in love with her, truly and completely, in a way that transcended the mission parameters and strategic calculations. Respectfully, Director, Marcus said quietly, I am going to disobey that order, Sentinel 7. If you reveal yourself, Marcus deactivated the communication link, took a deep breath, centered himself, and stepped into the throne room. What happened next would change everything, not just for him and Lasara, but for humanity's place in the galaxy. The throne room was chaos. Royal guards fought desperately against the Kravix raiders, who had brought heavy weapons and were systematically destroying the defensive positions. Bodies lay scattered across the crystalline floor. The beautiful murals that had taken centuries to create were scarred with weapon impacts. At the center of it all, a group of raiders had cornered Captain Zorkon and the remaining guards. Behind them, having been forced back from the vault corridors, stood Queen Lysara. The lead raider, larger than the others and wearing armor decorated with the bones of his victims, pointed his weapon at Lysara. The Queen of the Zevronians, the Kravix Dominion, sends its regards. Marcus moved, his combat suit's full capabilities activated, and he crossed the throne room in a blur of motion that defied the laws of physics as the Zevronians understood them. Kinetic enhancement, another human technology kept secret from the galaxy, allowed him to move at speeds that made him appear to teleport short distances. He struck the lead raider with enough force to send the massive alien flying backward into his companions. Before any of them could react, Marcus had disarmed 3 more raiders and disabled them with precise strikes to vulnerable points. The remaining raiders opened fire. Energy bolts filled the air, but Marcus was no longer where they aimed. He moved. Between the shots, his neural interface calculating trajectories and safe paths faster than conscious thought, his own weapons fired, and raiders fell with each shot, struck in non-lethal but incapacitating points. Within seconds, the immediate threat was neutralized. Marcus stood in the center of the throne room, surrounded by unconscious or disabled Kravix raiders, his combat suit's camouflage deactivated and revealing the advanced human technology for all to see. The surviving Zevronian guards stared at him in shock. Captain Zorkin's forearms hung limp at his sides, his weapons forgotten. High Chancellor Vexener, who had been sheltering behind an overturned console, gaped with his multifaceted eyes wide with disbelief, and Queen Lysara looked at her husband with an expression that combined shock, confusion, and the dawning realization that nothing she thought she knew about Marcus Chen was true. "Marcus," she whispered. "What? What are you?" Marcus deactivated his weapons and took a step toward her. His voice was gentle despite the violence that had just occurred. "My name is Marcus Chen." That part was true. "But I am not a cultural attach. I'm a sentinel of the Terran Defense Initiative. I'm one of Earth's guardians, placed throughout the galaxy to protect humanity's interests and gather intelligence." He paused, meeting her eyes directly. "I am also your husband, and I love you." That was never a lie, Lysara. That was never part of the mission. Before she could respond, alarms blared again. Marcus's neural interface activated automatically, feeding him information that made his blood run cold. "We have a bigger problem." The Kravix attack was just the opening move. There are 5 more fleets approaching the system. This was not a raid. This is an invasion, a revelation. The silence in the throne room was absolute. Even the dying energy. Weapon systems seemed to quiet themselves as Queen Lysara stared at the man she thought she knew. Marcus stood motionless, his black combat suit still gleaming with the technology that should not exist on a human body. The Zevronian guards remained frozen, their weapons half raised, but uncertain whether this human was threat or savior. High Chancellor Vexener was the first to break the silence. His crystalline skin flashed through patterns of confusion and anger. "This is impossible. Humans do not have technology like this. Your species barely managed atmospheric flight a century ago." "That is what we wanted everyone to believe," Marcus replied calmly. His neural interface was still feeding him data about the approaching fleets, but he forced himself to focus on the immediate situation. Lysara deserved answers. "May I explain?" "All of it." Lysara's hand trembled slightly as she gestured toward the observation alcove adjacent to the throne room. "Yes, I think you owe me that much." They moved to the alcove, leaving Captain Zorkin to coordinate the palace defenses and tend to the wounded. The space was smaller, more intimate, with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the Zevronian capital city. In the distance, fires burned where the Kravix raiders had struck civilian targets before being driven back. Marcus began speaking. his voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of emotion. 20 years ago, humanity achieved faster-than-light travel. It was celebrated across Earth as our greatest achievement. What the public did not know was that we had been working on the technology for 40 years in complete secrecy. He moved to the window, looking out at the city. When we finally decoded the quantum mechanics necessary for FTL travel, our leaders faced a choice. We could announce ourselves to the galaxy as a new spacefaring species, or we could remain hidden and learn about the universe before revealing our full capabilities. You chose to hide, Lysara said. There was no accusation in her voice, only a statement of fact. We chose to survive, Marcus corrected gently. Our first unmanned probes sent back information that terrified our governments. We discovered a galaxy full of civilizations thousands of years older than us. We found empires that spanned hundreds of star systems. We learned about the Kraviks, the Korthon Syndicate, the Vex Coalition, dozens of other powers that could have exterminated humanity without effort. He turned to face her. But we also learned something else. We learned that young species are either conquered, absorbed, or left to struggle alone until they become strong enough to matter. We decided we would not wait for that strength. We would build it in secret. Vexener, who had followed them into the alcove despite not being invited, interjected sharply. You are claiming that in 20 years, humanity developed technology that surpasses civilizations with millennia of advancement? No, Marcus said. I am claiming that humanity spent 20 years focused entirely on military technology. While allowing the galaxy to believe we were primitive, every resource, every brilliant mind, every innovation was directed toward one goal: ensuring Earth's survival. He pressed a control on his wrist, and a holographic display materialized in the air. It showed Earth, surrounded by defensive installations that were invisible to standard scanning technology. Satellite networks that looked like communications arrays but were actually weapon platforms. Ships that appeared to be cargo vessels but contained. Engines capable of speeds that would shock galactic military analysts. Terran Defense Initiative was created to implement a strategy we called silent strength. We would appear weak while becoming powerful. We would send diplomats who seemed naive while training operatives who could operate anywhere in the galaxy. We would accept insults and dismissal while building the capability to defend ourselves. The holographic display shifted, showing dozens of human faces. These are the Sentinels. We number 312 across the known galaxy. We are embedded in governments, militaries, trade organizations, and cultural institutions. We gather intelligence, build relationships, and when necessary, we act to protect Earth's interests. Lysara moved closer to the display, studying the faces. Some looked like diplomats, others like traders or scholars. None looked like soldiers, which was precisely the point. You have been spying on everyone. We have been learning, Marcus said. There is a difference. We do not steal technology or sabotage other civilizations. We simply observe and prepare for the day when humanity can no longer hide. And that day is today, Lysara said quietly, understanding dawning in her crystalline eyes. Yes, the Kravik's attack was not random. Someone hired them, gave them intelligence about your palace defenses, and helped them bypass your planetary shields. That someone knew about our alliance and wanted to break it. Marcus manipulated the holographic display, bringing up fleet movements. My neural interface is connected to the Sentinel network. Right now, we are tracking 5 separate fleets converging on this system. Kraviks, Korthon, Vex, Helion, and Dractor. That is 5 of the 7 major military powers in this sector. Vexener's patterns flashed with alarm. That is impossible. Those powers have never allied. They hate each other. They hate each other less than they feared the idea of humans and Zevronians working together, Marcus said. Think about it, Chancellor. Your empire controls resource-rich systems and maintains the most advanced shield technology in the galaxy. Earth has stayed quiet, but has established trade agreements and cultural exchanges with dozens of species. If our alliance strengthens, if we begin sharing technology and coordinating defenses, we become a threat to the established order. He pulled up more data. The Sentinel network has been tracking unusual communications for the past 8 months. Secret meetings between governments that should be enemies. weapons shipments to mercenary groups, money flowing through channels designed to hide their origin. Someone has been organizing a coalition, and their target is this alliance. Lysara sank into a chair, the weight of this revelation pressing down on her. They will destroy my world. The Zevronian defense fleet cannot stand against 5 major powers. No, Marcus agreed, but Earth can help. Can you? Vexener demanded. You claim to have advanced technology, but where is your fleet? Where are these mighty human warriors? I see one man who fights well, but one man cannot stop an invasion. Marcus smiled slightly, though there was no humor in it. Chancellor, that is exactly the assumption we have relied on for 20 years. You see one man and assume that is all we have. You should know better by now. He pressed another control, and the holographic display expanded to show the space beyond the Zevronian system. At first, there was nothing visible. Then, slowly, sensor signatures began appearing. 1, then 10, then 50, then hundreds. What am I looking at? Lysara whispered. The 3rd Defensive Fleet of the Terran Defense Initiative, Marcus said. 127 warships, 40 support vessels, and approximately 30,000 personnel. They have been stationed to light years from this system for the past 6 months, cloaked by technology that makes them invisible to standard sensors. The display showed the ships in detail. They were sleek and angular, designed in ways that suggested different engineering principles than what galactic civilizations used. Their hulls were covered in what appeared to be adaptive plating that could change configuration based on tactical needs. This is impossible, Vexener repeated. But his voice had lost its certainty. This is humanity, Chancellor. We are the species that went from the first airplane to landing on our moon in 66 years. We are the species that nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times and chose to survive each time. We are the species that looked at a galaxy full of civilizations older and more powerful than us and decided we would find a way to stand among them as equals. Marcus's voice carried quiet pride. Never underestimate what humans can accomplish when survival is at stake. A communication alert chimed from Lysara's throne room. Captain Zorkon's voice came through urgently. Your Majesty, the approaching fleets have entered the outer system. They are broadcasting a demand for your surrender. Lysara stood, her royal composure returning. Tell them, I will not surrender. Your Majesty, our defense fleet cannot. I said, I will not surrender. Her voice was steel. She looked at Marcus. Can your fleet really protect my world? Yes, Marcus said without hesitation. But I need to call them in. Once I do, Earth's secret is exposed. The galaxy will know what we are. That cannot be undone. Will your superiors approve? Marcus thought of Director Hammond's orders to disengage, to protect his cover at all costs. He thought of the careful strategies that had kept Earth safe for 20 years. Then he looked at Lysara, at the woman he loved, at the queen who had shown him nothing but kindness and respect, even when her entire court dismissed him as irrelevant. They will have to accept it, he said. Some things matter more than strategy. Pressed a sequence on his neural interface, sending out a coded signal that would be received by every sentinel in the galaxy and by the fleet waiting beyond the system. This is Sentinel-7, authorization code Midnight Sun. Protocol revelation is active. All units respond and mobilize. The response was immediate. His interface filled with confirmations as sentinels across the galaxy acknowledged the signal. But the most important response came from Fleet Admiral Keiko Yamamoto, commander of the 3rd Defensive Fleet. Sentinel-7, this is Admiral Yamamoto. We have received your authorization. Fleet is decloaking and preparing to engage. ETA to Zevronian space, 14 minutes. Hold the line until we arrive. Marcus relayed the information to Lysara and Vexenor. Help is coming. We need to keep the palace secure until they arrive. The next 14 minutes were the longest of Marcus's life. The coalition fleet continued its approach, broadcasting demands and threats. Lysara refused every communication, standing firm on her throne with a dignity that made Marcus's heart ache. The Zevronian defense fleet, outnumbered 5-1, formed a defensive perimeter around their homeworld and prepared to fight a battle they could not win. Then, precisely on schedule, space itself seemed to tear open as the human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. The effect was deliberately dramatic, designed to be seen and remembered. 127 warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with technology that made them look more like living things than machines. Admiral Yamamoto's voice broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Keiko Yamamoto of the Terran Defense Initiative. The Zevronian Empire is under the protection of Earth. Any hostile action against them will be considered an act of war against humanity. You have one opportunity to withdraw. Choose wisely. In the throne room, Vexener stared at the tactical displays showing the human fleet. They are real. It is all real. Yes, Marcus said simply. We have been real all along. You just were not looking. The coalition fleet commanders, watching this unexpected development, found themselves facing a decision. They had planned to overwhelm the Zevronian defenses quickly. They had not planned on encountering a completely unknown military force that appeared from nowhere with technology. They could not immediately assess. The Kravix commander, a brutal warrior named Thrakener, who had never retreated from battle, was the first to make his choice. His fleet broke formation and charged toward the human vessels. Weapons charging for a devastating first strike. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists for decades. The human ships moved with a grace and speed that seemed to defy physics. They did not form traditional battle lines or defensive formations. Instead, they flowed through space like schools of fish, each ship aware of every other ship's position and adjusting in real time. The Kravix opened fire with everything they had: plasma torpedoes, particle beams, kinetic missiles. Every weapon in their considerable arsenal launched toward the human fleet. Not a single shot connected. The human ships simply were not where the weapons struck. Then the humans returned fire. Their weapons were different from anything the galaxy had seen. Beams of focused energy that seemed to bend around obstacles. Projectiles that accelerated continuously after launch. Electronic warfare that turned enemy ships' own systems against them. Within 2 minutes, half the Kravix fleet was disabled. Their ships drifted dead in space. Systems shut down, but crews unharmed. The humans had struck with surgical precision, targeting engines and weapon systems while deliberately avoiding casualties. Admiral Yamamoto's voice cut through the shocked silence. The Kravix fleet is neutralized. Any other fleet that wishes to test Earth's resolve may do so. Or you may withdraw and live to reconsider your strategic assumptions. The remaining 4 fleets, having witnessed the casual destruction of the Kravix forces, made the only logical choice. They withdrew. Their commanders already sending urgent reports back to their governments about the new power that had emerged in the galaxy. In the throne room, Lasara watched the tactical displays with an expression that combined awe and something else Marcus could not quite identify. You saved my world. Your people saved my world. Yes, Marcus said. He deactivated his combat suit's more aggressive systems, letting it fade back to civilian clothing appearance. Though I suspect this complicates our relationship considerably, Lysara laughed, a sound that combined relief and hysteria. Complicates. Marcus, you have been lying to me for 18 months. You are not who I thought you were. Your entire species is not what anyone thought. And you just revealed military technology that will reshape galactic politics. She looked at him directly. Yes, I would say that complicates things. I did not lie about loving you, Marcus said quietly. That was always real. Was it? Lysara's voice carried pain. How can I know what was real? And what was the Sentinel playing his role? Marcus moved closer to her, slowly, giving her time to pull away if she chose. She did not, because the Sentinel would never have compromised the mission. The Sentinel would have let you die rather than reveal Earth's secret. The Sentinel would have followed orders and maintained his cover. He took her hands gently. But I am also Marcus Chen. It's the man who fell in love with a queen who treated him with kindness when everyone else saw only a primitive. And that man could not watch you die, even if it meant exposing everything. Tears formed in Lysara's crystalline eyes, refracting light in rainbow patterns. I do not know if I can trust you again. I know, Marcus said, and I will spend however long it takes to earn that trust back. But right now, we have more immediate concerns. The galaxy just learned that Earth is a major power. That will have consequences we need to prepare for. As if summoning them, a holographic communication request appeared. Admiral Yamamoto wished to speak with Queen Lysara directly. The formal first contact between Earth's military and the Zevronian government was about to begin. And nothing would ever be the same again. Humanity's answer at the Royal Conference Chamber had been hastily repaired after the Kravix attack. Zevronian engineers worked with remarkable speed, placing shattered crystal panels and restoring the holographic systems that allowed communication across vast distances. Now, the chamber hosted the most important meeting in recent galactic history. Queen Lysara sat at the head of the crystalline table, her posture perfect despite the exhaustion evident in her dimmed skin patterns. To her right sat High Chancellor Vexener, who had barely spoken since witnessing the human fleet's capabilities. Captain Zorkon stood at attention behind the queen, his forearms crossed in a posture that his species reserved for situations of extreme uncertainty. Marcus stood slightly apart from the Zevronian delegation, his position deliberately neutral. He was no longer the decorative consort who stood 3 steps below the throne, but he was also not yet a formal representative of Earth. He existed in a liminal space, belonging fully to neither side while being bound to both. The holographic display activated, and Admiral Keiko Yamamoto appeared. She was in her late 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical bun, and eyes that had seen more battles than she cared to remember. She wore the dark blue uniform of the Terran Defense Initiative, marked with insignia that meant nothing to the Zevronians, but carried profound significance within Earth's military hierarchy. Queen Lysara, Admiral Yamamoto said, offering a bow that was respectful but not subservient. I am Admiral Keiko Yamamoto, commander of the 3rd Defensive Fleet. I apologize for the dramatic nature of our introduction. Admiral Lysara replied, her voice carefully controlled. Your intervention saved countless lives. For that, you have my gratitude. However, I believe we have much to discuss about the nature of Earth's presence in this region of space. Indeed, we do. Yamamoto gestured, and additional figures appeared in the holographic display. Allow me to introduce Director Michael Hammond of the Terran Defense Initiative Strategic Division, and Council Member Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's Senior Diplomatic Representative. Marcus recognized Director Hammond immediately. The man looked exactly as he had during their last communication, when he had ordered Marcus to abandon Lysara and maintain his cover. Hammond's expression was carefully neutral, but Marcus could read the disapproval in the set of his shoulders. The mission had been compromised. There would be consequences. Dr. Chen was Marcus's aunt, though few people knew of their relationship. She had been instrumental in developing Earth's approach to galactic diplomacy, advocating for the strategy of perceived weakness combined with hidden strength. She offered Marcus a slight nod, which he returned. Your Majesty, Dr. Chen began, I want to address the deception directly. Earth has indeed maintained a facade of weakness while developing our defensive capabilities. This was not done out of malice toward any civilization, but out of necessity. Young species face unique dangers when entering the galactic community. Vexener spoke for the first time since the meeting began, his voice sharp with barely controlled anger. You speak of necessity, but you deployed spies throughout our empire. You allowed us to insult and dismiss your people while gathering intelligence on our technology, our politics, our weaknesses. How is this different from the actions of our enemies? Because we never used that intelligence against you, Hammond replied. Every sentinel was under strict orders to gather information, but never to sabotage, steal, or harm the civilizations they infiltrated. Our goal was survival, not conquest. And Sentinel 7. Lysara's voice was quiet but carried across the chamber like a blade. Was his mission to marry me and gather intelligence from my bed? Marcus felt the words like physical blows. Dr. Chen's expression tightened, but she answered directly. Sentinel 7's mission was to establish close ties with your government, and assess the viability of a long-term alliance between Earth and the Zevronian Empire. The marriage was suggested by your own diplomatic corps as a cultural exchange. Marcus volunteered for the assignment. I volunteered because I believed in the potential of our peoples working together, Marcus interjected. And because I had studied your government and believed Queen Lysara represented the kind of leader Earth needed as an ally. How convenient, Vexener said acidly. That duty and attraction aligned so perfectly. It was not convenient at all, Marcus replied. Meeting the Chancellor's multifaceted eyes directly. Falling in love with her was the worst thing that could have happened to the mission. It compromised my objectivity. It made me vulnerable. It led me to disobey direct orders and expose Earth's secret. If I had remained purely professional, none of this would have happened, and my mission would have continued successfully. Which is why, despite the mission failure, Sentinel-7's actions likely prevented a catastrophic outcome. Our intelligence suggests the coalition attacking your world was merely the first phase of a larger campaign. Had they succeeded in eliminating Queen Lysara, the Zevronian Empire would have fractured. The resulting chaos would have destabilized this entire sector. Dr. Chen manipulated the display, highlighting resource maps, trade routes, and technological capabilities. The Zevronian Empire controls critical resources and maintains the galaxy's most advanced defensive shield technology. Earth brings manufacturing capabilities, adaptive artificial intelligence, and what we call rapid innovation protocols. Separately, we are interesting but manageable. Together, we become a force that could rival any established power. She paused, letting the information settle. The Concordat understands this. They attempted to break our alliance before it could fully form. They failed. Which means they will try again with different tactics. Then we are at war, Sorkhan said bluntly. 5 major powers against Zevronia and Earth. Not necessarily, Admiral Yamamoto replied. The Concordat's attack failed spectacularly. Right now, every government in the sector is reassessing their intelligence about humanity. They thought they understood Earth's capabilities. We have proven them catastrophically wrong. That gives us a window of opportunity. An opportunity for what? Lysara asked. To reshape the political landscape, Dr. Chen said. Queen Lysara, Earth formally requests a full defensive alliance with the Zevronian Empire. Not the limited cultural exchange we have maintained, but a comprehensive partnership, including military coordination, technology sharing, and joint strategic planning. The request hung in the air. Lysara's skin patterns swirled through complex configurations that Marcus had learned to read over 18 months. She was thinking through implications, considering consequences, weighing the future of her empire against the uncertainties of this new relationship. And what would Earth require in return? Vexener asked suspiciously. Technology exchange, particularly your shield systems and crystal-based computing architecture, access to your trade networks and diplomatic channels, joint research facilities. And honestly, we need allies who will help keep us from becoming the very thing we have fought to avoid, Dr. Chen said. Which is? Lysara prompted. An empire, Marcus said quietly. Earth has spent 20 years building power in secret. Now that power is revealed, history shows that civilizations with significant military advantages tend to use them. We need partners who will help us remember that strength should be used for defense, not domination. Lysara studied Marcus for a long moment. You speak as if you still represent both sides. I do, Marcus replied simply. I am Sentinel-7, sworn to protect Earth. I am also your husband, unless you choose to dissolve that bond. Both identities are real. Both loyalties are genuine. That is complicated and messy, but it is the truth. Your Majesty, Admiral Yamamoto interjected gently. I understand this is an enormous decision with insufficient time for proper consideration. However, our intelligence suggests the Concordat will regroup and attempt another assault within 6 months. We need to present a unified front before then, or they will exploit any perceived weakness in our alliance. Lysara stood, her robes flowing around her like liquid light. She walked to the chamber windows, looking out over her capital city. Fires still burned in some districts from the Kravik's attack. Medical facilities were overwhelmed with wounded. Her people were frightened and looking to her for leadership in an uncertain time. 3,000 years ago, she said quietly, the Zevronian Empire nearly destroyed itself in civil war. The various factions fought over resources, territory, and pride. Millions died before my ancestors realized that survival required cooperation, not domination. We built an empire based on that principle. She turned back to face the assembled leaders. We have maintained peace for 1,000 years by respecting the sovereignty of other civilizations, by honoring our agreements, and by using our strength defensively rather than aggressively. That is who we are. Gaze settled on Marcus. You kept secrets from me? You allowed me to believe things about Earth and about yourself that were not true. That hurt me deeply, and I do not know if I can fully trust you again. Her skin patterns shifted to colors that Marcus recognized as determination. But I also saw you risk everything to protect my world. I saw Earth's fleet arrive to defend people they had no obligation to save. That matters. She addressed Admiral Yamamoto and the Earth's representatives directly. The Zevronian Empire accepts Earth's proposal for a full defensive alliance. We will share technology, coordinate military strategy, and stand together against those who would destroy what we are building. But I have conditions. Name them, Dr. Chen said. First, no more sentinels operating within Zevronian space without my government's knowledge. If Earth wishes to gather intelligence on my empire, ask, we will provide information freely to our allies. Admiral Yamamoto glanced at Director Hammond, who nodded reluctantly. Agreed. Second, any technology Earth shares with us must be shared genuinely. No hidden backdoors, no secret vulnerabilities that could be exploited later. True partnership requires true trust, agreed, Dr. Chen said without hesitation. Third, this alliance must be public and transparent. No more hidden fleets or secret capabilities. If we are to stand together, the galaxy must see us standing together without doubt or ambiguity. Admiral Yamamoto smiled slightly. Your Majesty, Earth would prefer nothing more than to stop hiding. Secrecy was survival strategy, not preference. We accept your terms. Then we have an agreement, Lasara said. Chancellor Vexener, begin drafting the formal treaty. Captain Zorkon, coordinate with Admiral Yamamoto on integrating our defense systems. And someone please explain to our people what has happened before rumors create more chaos than truth. The meeting continued for several more hours, working through details of ship deployments, technology transfers, and diplomatic protocols. Marcus participated where appropriate but remained mostly silent, aware that his position had fundamentally changed. He was no longer an infiltrator pretending to be something he was not. But he was also not simply a consort anymore. When the meeting finally adjourned, Marcus found himself alone with Lysara in the conference chamber. The holographic displays had shut down, leaving them in the soft glow of bioluminescent crystals that grew naturally in the palace walls. Walk with me, Lysara said. Not quite a command, but not quite a request. They moved through the palace in silence, passing repair crews working to fix damage from the attack. Zevronian citizens stopped to bow when they saw their queen, their skin patterns showing relief and gratitude that she had survived. Marcus noticed that some of them looked at him differently now. With respect rather than dismissal, Lysara led him to the palace observatory, a dome at the highest point of the structure that provided an unobstructed view of the sky. Above them, both Zevronian and human ships patrolled in coordinated patterns, a visible symbol of the new alliance. When I married you, Lysara said quietly, I believed I was choosing love over politics. My advisors wanted me to marry someone who could strengthen diplomatic ties with another major power. But I chose you, the human who read poetry and made me laugh, who seemed content to be my partner rather than seeking power for himself. I thought I was being romantic. Instead, I was being manipulated, Marcus said firmly. Lysara, I was sent here to assess your government and build an alliance. That was the mission. But choosing to love you was mine alone. No one ordered me to develop genuine feelings. No one instructed me to care about your happiness. That happened despite the mission, not because of it. How can I know the difference? Lysara's voice broke slightly. How can I separate Marcus the Sentinel from Marcus, my husband? Because Marcus the Sentinel would have followed orders and maintained his cover. Marcus the Sentinel would have watched you die rather than compromise Earth's secret. Marcus the Sentinel would have put duty before everything else. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hands. But Marcus, your husband, could not watch you face danger alone. Marcus, your husband, chose you over orders. Marcus, your husband, is standing here now, knowing his career is probably destroyed, and feeling no regret because you are safe. Tears formed in Lysara's crystalline eyes, refracting the starlight above them into rainbow patterns. I want to forgive you. I want to believe that what we had was real. It was real, Marcus insisted. Every moment we spent together, every conversation, every quiet evening, reading poetry, all of it was real. The only lie was what I did not tell you about Earth. But everything between us, that was always genuine. Lysara was quiet for a long time, her eyes searching his face. I need time, she finally said. I need to process all of this, to understand what it means for us and for my empire. Can you give me that time? I will give you whatever you need, Marcus said. I am not going anywhere. They might recall you to Earth. Let them try. Marcus smiled slightly. I have already disobeyed direct orders and compromised the most sensitive operation Earth has conducted in 20 years. What more can they do to me? Despite herself, Lysara laughed. It was a small sound, fragile and uncertain, but genuine. You are absolutely infuriating. They stood together under the stars, not quite touching, but not quite separate either. The future remained uncertain. The Concordat would undoubtedly attempt another assault. The galactic political landscape was shifting in ways no one could fully predict. Marcus's status as a sentinel was in serious question, and his marriage hung in a delicate balance. But for this moment, there was peace. The attack had been repulsed. Earth and Zevronia stood together, and to people who loved each other, despite complications, were finding their way toward understanding. 3 months later, the formal treaty signing took place in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Zevronian capital. Representatives from 50 civilizations attended. Drawn by curiosity about the new alliance that had emerged so dramatically, the Concordat powers sent observers, their aggressive plans temporarily shelved as they reassessed their strategic assumptions about Earth. Queen Lysara wore robes of state, formal and magnificent, her crown pulsing with golden light that signified high ceremony. Beside her stood Marcus Chen, now officially designated as Ambassador Consort, a newly created title that acknowledged his dual role. He wore a uniform that blended Zevronian and Earth design elements, another symbol of the partnership being formalized. Admiral Yamamoto stood with the Earth delegation, along with Dr. Chen and a dozen other human representatives. Director Hammond was notably absent, having resigned from the Terran Defense Initiative after his handling of the Sentinel-7. Situation had been criticized by Earth's Council. The treaty itself was a masterwork of diplomatic language, carefully balancing sovereignty with cooperation, clearly defining mutual defense obligations while respecting each civilization's independence. Technology sharing protocols, trade agreements, and cultural exchange programs were all detailed with precision that satisfied both legal experts and military strategists. When the signing was complete, Queen Lysara addressed the assembled delegates. 3 months ago, my world was attacked by those who feared change. They believed they could break our alliance through violence. They were wrong. Her voice carried throughout the hall, amplified by Zevronian acoustic technology. Today, Earth and Zevronia stand together not because we are the same, but because we share common values. We believe in defending the innocent. We believe in cooperation over conquest. We believe in building something better than what came before. She gestured toward Marcus. My husband kept secrets from me. He allowed me to believe he was something he was not. Those secrets hurt me deeply. She paused, her skin patterns showing complex emotions. But he also taught me that sometimes protection requires deception, that love can exist alongside duty, and that trust, once broken, can be rebuilt through honest effort. Marcus felt his throat tighten. They had spent the past 3 months working through the complications of their relationship. There had been difficult conversations, tears, and more than a few arguments. But slowly, carefully, they had found their way back to each other. Admiral Yamamoto spoke next. Earth remained hidden for 20 years because we feared what would happen if the galaxy knew our true capabilities. We were right to be cautious. But we were also wrong to believe we could remain hidden forever. She looked directly at the Concordat observers. Secrets create suspicion. Transparency builds trust. From this day forward, Earth commits to operating openly, to sharing our capabilities honestly, and to working with our allies in plain sight. The ceremony concluded with a display of combined military exercises. Human and Zevronian ships performed maneuvers in perfect coordination, demonstrating the integration of their forces. The watching delegates saw technology they had never imagined, tactics they did not understand, and a level of cooperation that suggested these two civilizations had been working together for far longer than 3 months. That evening, after the formal ceremonies and diplomatic receptions, Marcus and Lysara found themselves alone in their private quarters. Lysara's formal robes had been replaced with simple, comfortable clothing, and Marcus had shed the ambassador's uniform for civilian dress. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked. "About all of this?" Lysara considered the question. Hopeful, frightened, uncertain, grateful. She moved to the window, looking out at the city below where humans and Zevronians now walked together freely. 3 months ago, I thought I knew what my future would be. Now everything has changed. Do you regret it? No, Lysara said firmly. Change is painful, but stagnation is death. The galaxy needed to be shaken from its comfortable assumptions. I just wish it could have happened differently. Marcus joined her at the window. I am sorry. For the deception, for the pain I caused, for complicating your life in ways you never asked for. I know. Lysara took his hand. The gesture was still somewhat tentative, trust rebuilding but not yet fully restored. And I am learning to accept that you are both the man I fell in love with and someone more complex than I initially understood. Both of those people are real. Both of them are my husband. Can you live with that complexity? Lysara smiled. Marcus, I rule an empire spanning 40 star systems. I negotiate with dozens of alien species. I balance competing interests that would drive a lesser person to madness. I think I can handle one complicated human. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The Concordat would eventually regroup and attempt new strategies to break the Earth-Sevronia alliance. Other civilizations would seek to exploit the new political landscape. There would be crises, conflicts, and countless difficult decisions. But for now, there was peace. Two civilizations stood together, stronger than either could be alone. And two people who loved each other had found their way through deception to something more honest and real. Marcus, Lysara said quietly. Yes, no more secrets. If we are going to make this work, both the alliance and our marriage, I need you to promise me. No more hidden capabilities, no more concealed identities, no more truths left unspoken. Marcus thought about the promise she was asking for. His training as a sentinel had taught him that information was power, that secrets were tools, that revealing everything made you vulnerable. But he had also learned that perfect security meant perfect isolation, and that some relationships were worth the risk of vulnerability. I promise, he said, no more secrets between us. Whatever I am, whatever I know, whatever Earth is planning, I will share it with you. Even when it is difficult, even when it creates complications, even when it scares you. Especially then. Lysara leaned against him, her crystalline skin cool against his warmth. Then perhaps we have a chance. Not just us, but all of this. She gestured toward the window, encompassing the alliance, the treaty, the future they were building together. We have more than a chance, Marcus said with conviction. We have something the galaxy has not seen in a very long time. What is that? Two civilizations willing to trust each other completely. That is rarer and more powerful than any weapon or technology. That is what will change everything. Outside the window, Human and Zevronian patrol ships crossed paths, their running lights creating patterns of beauty against the stars. On Earth, children learned about the Zevronian Empire in schools that once taught them humans were alone in the universe. On Zevronia, scholars studied human history with fascination, discovering a species that had compressed centuries of development into decades of focused effort. The galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer hiding. Earth and Zevernia stood together, openly and honestly. The Concordat plotted and planned, seeking ways to break what they could not understand. Other civilizations watched with a mixture of hope and fear, wondering what this new alliance would mean for the balance of power. But in that moment, in that room, two people who had found each other across the vastness of space simply held each other and looked toward a future. They would build together, one step at a time, one honest moment at a time, one choice at a time. The alien queen had been shocked when her human husband revealed his true power, but she had been even more shocked to discover that beneath the warrior, spy the defender of Earth, was simply a man who loved her. And perhaps that was the most powerful revelation of all. The end.